Welcome to the garden. My name is Phil, and this is one of my first videos that I'm going to make. I live here, Tucson, Arizona. It's a little chilly today, which is unusual. We had a cold snap. But I wanted to start this to show people primarily some of the crazy stuff that I do. I don't know if it's crazy, but I primarily am a gardener. And I grow here in the Sonoran Desert, Tucson to be specific, all the information right here about the zone. And a lot of people tell me that they have trouble growing here. They tell me they have brown thumbs, they tell me that it's too hot, that you can't grow things here, but I simply don't believe that. So I am going to take you guys along my journey in southern Arizona, as in searching for gardening help, I've had a difficult time finding stuff that pertains to the Sonoran Desert. And I thought a lot of people in warmer climates might benefit from some of my knowledge. But that doesn't mean if you live somewhere else that it wouldn't pertain to you, because the timing might be different, but a lot of the principles are the same. So behind me is my garden. It's not huge, but you don't need a huge garden to grow a pretty crazy amount of produce. This garden total measures maybe 300 square feet. I would love more, I love growing, but here you are. Currently, I have all of my winter veggies are getting ready to come out. It's early March here in the desert, which means summer is upon us. Our last frost date is March 15th. So it's time to start taking stock of what we've got, what still needs to be harvested, and start planting for spring. Spring here in the Sonoran Desert, specifically in Tucson, I live in southern Arizona, spring is very short. So by the end of April, we're already going to be closing in on 100 degrees. So we plant for spring, end of February, early March, in the hopes that we can get some decent produce by, I don't know, end of April into May. Alright, so seeing as I have so much to do in the garden, I decided I'm going to start with some procrastination today, because I really want to plant some strawberries. This is a GreenStalk. My mother and my sister both use these. They swear by them. It's a vertical gardening system. So they kindly bought me one. Thanks, Mom. And I'm going to plant strawberries in it. But I haven't had a lot of success with strawberries in the past. And so I decided I was going to try to do an experiment with them. I've purchased live plants as well as some rooted runners, 3 different varieties of rooted runners plus a 4th variety of started plants, so that I can see what does best in this system, in my climate, in my garden. So the way this works, if you're not familiar, is you water it from the top. You fill this basin with water and it trickles down through a channel in the center. So each level has a small insert that fills with water that trickles down and succession waters from top to bottom. So let's plant some strawberries. So let's open these up and have a look inside. So they're going to be packed in a big bundle. Sometimes a few fall out, so make sure you shake the soil out, make sure nothing got away from you. Alright, looks good. Alright, so this rubber band's holding them all together, so get rid of that. We don't need that. You're going to want to gently start separating these out. So you can see the roots, you can see the runner where it attached to the plant. And the way that these work is that the runner goes along the surface of the soil and it will reroot itself away from the main plant. And so that's what these are. These are those rerooted sections. And so we're just taking them apart, counting them, kind of assessing the size. That one's pretty small. And what we're going to do is we're putting them in this bucket right here, and we're going to soak them in water for a couple hours because they've been in this soil, they were packed, and they've been shipped around, so they're a little dry. So we just want to rehydrate them, get rid of this soil. We don't need that. We have our own garden soil. And so you see I soaked these already. Just make sure they're all submerged, and we're going to do that with all 3 varieties. We're going to do our very best to keep them straight so we don't mix them up later on down the road. So I'm just going to do that with all the variety.
Meanwhile,
Alright, so here's the plan. Now I've got the pots filled for the GreenStalk. I have purchased 3 different varieties of runners for strawberries, and I've purchased live plants already. I'm curious about whether or not a specific variety does well here in my garden, and if it's worth saving the money to buy the rooted runners that come in a bag versus buying live plants that have already sprouted. They've already got their leaves going. Some of them, in some cases, have fruit already. But I'm not sure because the plants cost almost double what the runners cost. And the runners, you get twice as many plants. So 10 versus 5 for the same amount. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to plant probably 2 runners per little clover leaf off of these GreenStalks and 1 plant. And then I'm going to stack it up and water it. Water them in really well. You want to water them in well so that there's not a lot of air around the roots because that'll cause them to dry out. And you don't want desiccated roots. That's not going to help anything. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to try to keep the varieties straight because I am notorious for forgetting what I plant and where. So yeah, that's what you can expect. All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing here. Excuse me. Anyway, now these are the plants I purchased. You can see, okay, as you can see, it's already starting to fruit right here. However, let's try that again, shall we? All right, as I was saying, I will come through here, and if I have any starts, like you can see here, you can see obviously see the fruit there, I snip those off. I know it breaks your heart. You want the fruit. Sometimes you'll even pick the plant because it has fruit on it already, but right now the goal of these plants is to get bigger. We want them to get bigger. The bigger the plant, the more fruit you get. If it starts putting out fruit this young, chances are it won't have enough vigor for the plant to grow larger. All right, so I picked this spot here, and I'm going to put the strawberry and build it here. I chose this spot because this big lemon tree right here shades it from the afternoon sun, but still gives it access to the morning light, which is much nicer than the afternoon light here. The afternoon light here is incredibly harsh, so you want to protect the plants for the afternoon, which is part of the reason the whole garden bed is over here. Gives it a little bit of protection from the really high UV afternoons we get here, particularly in the summer. So I'm just going to start assembling it, and I guess see you when we're done. I think it's full. Oh, that's an Alright, well there's a good sign, it's coming out the bottom. So, good rule of thumb is when you're watering any of your plants, water them enough so that the water does run out the bottom. So it seems like a waste of water, but particularly here in the desert, we have really hard water. And so if you don't let the water flush out, a lot of the salts will build up within the pot and it can burn your roots. So you want to make sure that you water it enough that it starts flowing out the bottom. That's also a good indicator that you have nice saturated soil. So I'm also going to spray this off a little bit just to make sure that the water is getting on everything that I want to be moisturized. Moisturized? Sure, why not? And then we'll just let it grow. Hopefully within the next 2 weeks we start seeing some positive growth, but you know, you can't really tell. I mean, it's an experiment, so we'll see if they start coming up. And then we can have strawberries. Alright, so here's our follow-up a couple days later. We don't have any positive growth on the rootstocks, but it looks like all the plants that we started are all doing pretty good. Actually seeing some new leaves popping up in there, which I'll take it. We got a little bit of a rain last night, so everything's nice and wet out here today, so not much to do. Getting ready to start second green stalk back here. I think I'm going to do some flowers, maybe some leafy greens in there. But with that, I think I'm going to wrap this one up. Thank you for spending your time in the garden with me today. And, you know, go out and plant something.